Okay, challenging alcohol expectancies is a promising practice in preventing alcohol and other drug use. So today we are going to discuss about the seventh tool in this alcohol expectancy challenge model. That is, that it is commonly accepted that alcohol disinhibits. That means that people don't know what they do after using alcohol. This belief is not correct, as well as this belief promotes alcohol and drug use as well as alcohol related violence. Therefore, we have to challenge the concept alcohol disinhibits. First of all, we have to observe. We have to observe this misbehavior when used alcohol, as well as we have to analyze the situation and then start challenging this. Well, we know that we cannot behave in the way that we expect in the society, because there are certain behavioral norms, and if you break those behavioral norms, the society will not accept that. So, for example, abusing someone physically and using abusive language is not normally accepted in society. Others may openly criticize if someone behaves in that way. These negative social consequences of someone's abusive behavior are normally like to be a disincentive. So that does not promote that behavior. But we know if someone had consumed alcohol before committing an offense, the criminal, this critical reaction is generally less, right? He is excused for his behavior simply because that he is so-called under the influence. So this is the thing that we are going to examine today. So commonest allowances given to alcohol users. So the alcohol users are pardoned and sanctioned for their misbehavior. So what are the common ways of doing that? Firstly, permission to be rude and aggressive. Once you have used alcohol, you can be rude and you can be aggressive. And people say, hey, he is under the influence, and you are pardoned for your misbehavior. And another thing, freedom from critical judgment. We don't judge people when we find that he was under the influence. So we put the blame to alcohol, not to that person. We are not judging him. And at the same time, permission to ignore safety of oneself and the other. If I am drunk, that I can behave the way that even ignoring my own safety and safety of others. And people blame not for that person, but for the others. Is this true? Is this true? Now we have to question this. No, the general conventional wisdom is that after using alcohol, they lose control. They lose control and they don't know what they are doing. How does this belief came into existence? Right. Now we know once someone uses alcohol, it has an effect in our mind and body. The alcohol has an effect in our mind and body. So it actually dulls people's mind as well as it dulls people's body. So sometimes when the alcohol use dulls people's mind, and sometimes professionals give a interpretation like impaired cognitive functions. And at the same time, we know that after using alcohol impairs physical functions more severely than the impairment of the cognition. Right. Anyway, but we have to see this impaired cognition function leads to inability to remember social norms. That is what we have to question. Now, it is not only that people use alcohol, but that people use sleeping pills, and sometimes people use tranquilizers. And think about the patients in the hospital. Sometimes they are given morphine. When a person is given sleeping pills or tranquilizers, we know that people's mind get dull and their body get dull, and they get the impaired cognitive functions, and they have these impaired physical functions. But that does not lead to, that does not allow them to behave antisocial manner. So they don't behave antisocial way. So they really act according to the standard behavioral norms. But when person has consumed alcohol, we automatically think that he doesn't know what he is doing. So that is why that we have to first of all question this. So we have to see whether this impaired cognitive function actually leads to the inability to remember social norms. But careful examinations of these behaviors after using alcohol can reveal that it is not so. Now, there are certain examples that you can question. Now, think about a person, an alcohol user, shouting obscenities, immediately become sober and speak normally when face the police officer. Once they face the police officer, all of a sudden they become very weak and sober. How does this sudden change occur? Even at that time, he had the same amount of alcohol in the system. So now we have to think about. So that is the process of challenging alcohol expectancies. How does it happen? Right. Alcohol users are able to find their way back home from the bar. Very well, they come back home and they tap at the right door. They don't go and tap on other people's doors. Of course, they do if they allow. But think about, the next door neighbor is very strict and he may not even looking at that house, and they directly come to his own house, and he can very well find the way. How does this happen? But once he enters the house, he pretends that he doesn't know anything and he is under the influence and he is not liable for what he is doing. Probably the poor wife also accept that fact and thinking, hey, after using alcohol, he becomes bad, the man turns to beast. But we have to question, how does he came all the way from the bar, taking many turns, okay? They know exact to which direction that in a turn that they have to take. So these things are done very effectively and efficiently, just as that they are in sober. So we have to question these things. Sometimes they avoid dangerous places, and sometimes they are very careful when they walk over a footbridge. So all these precautions are taken on their way back home, although they are under the influence and they were heavily consumed alcohol. How does this happen? Now we have to question these things, and they are aware the amount of money he has with him, right? Even in the bar setting, they give the exact amount of money and they get the cash back, count it, although they are under the influence, and they come back home. And if a member of the house gets some amount from his pocket, next day he knows it very well. He may say, hey, who took my money, right? He know exactly the amount that was there in his pocket. So how does this happen? But we say they don't know what they are doing after using alcohol. Intoxicated people generally pick the right individual to target. They carefully select the victim. Most of the time, these victims are powerless people, or it may be his wife or children, or men who have less power than him. So they are victimized. So people are victimized. Are we going to allow this victimization of powerless people simply because someone has used alcohol? No. Even in society, that we have to voice ourselves against alcohol-induced misbehavior, because they know very well what they are doing. So anyway, this challenging process starts with observing these incidents. So next time you can observe how others behave when they are drunk, and see these subtle points, how they behave in those situations. And some other examples, they very selectively choose the objects to destroy. Sometimes people come home and start a fight with the family members, mostly the wife, and sometimes throw things on the floor. But they are very selecting these things. Sometimes they never use something expensive, right? They use some wife's thing, and it may be most of the time it is not very expensive, and sometimes it makes a sound. Sometimes they never throw the wife's pillow over the floor because it doesn't make any sound. So there is no that advertising part is not there. So likewise, sometimes we have given this exercise to village level women to see in our activities of preventing gender-based violence, and they came up with a list of these things normally people throw over the floor when they are drunk, and they came and said they never select their own things or expensive things. So that means that they have a good judgment when selecting such objects, and they can very well locate his bed, right? At the same time, he know where the toilet is, whatever amount that he has used alcohol, and never divulge private or sensitive information. Sometimes we say that after using alcohol they lose their tongue and they start saying things normally not acceptable. But if you very deeply observe these utterances, you can find that they never divulge anything that comes against him next day. Sometimes they drink with their bosses and they say some bad things like, hey boss, didn't you have your eyes when you get married? See what an ugly lady that you married. That kind of things they can say, because he is pardoned. The boss also thinks that he is under the influence. When he is under the influence, he is like that. So next day it is over. But have you ever seen a person saying to his boss under the influence, hey boss, sometimes I rob money from the company? No, they won't say that. They won't divulge that. So they know where to stop when they saying things. They never say anything that comes to their way on the next day offensively. So they very selectively select. They select the words when they utter. Although we say there's a loosened tongue, all right. Sometimes they start fighting with their wives. Then they make criticize the wife's family side, and sometimes they talk about the dowry and various other things, but they never say something personal like, hey, now I am having an extramarital affair in my office. That kind of things they never divulge even to his wife after using alcohol, because next day the wife will not pardon such behavior. So now we have to think that there are some examples. Just you can think about some examples and collect these examples. That in our communities we are giving this assignment to community members, and we have compiled more than 50 such kind of examples. So if you start thinking about alcohol-induced misbehavior, you can conclude that they know what they are doing very well. So we think that generally it is not under their volitional control. No, they know what they are doing pretty well. Think about a person who goes and stab one of his enemies. He may go passing 20, 30 people in the road until he comes to his selected target, and he stabbed the person on the right place. They never stab to hand or leg. They know where the heart is, and they just stab the right place, and they hold the knife in the right manner, right? They never hold the knife from the blade and stab with the handle. No, they grab the knife with the handle all the time and stab with the blade. So they know very well what they are doing, and most of the time they come and stay in a place or hiding, or they throw the weapon to a river or somewhere, so that no one can find it. Likewise, they meticulously plan this kind of activity, and the problem is, the thing is that next day also he is pardoned. People say, hey, after using alcohol he becomes a beast and he doesn't know what he is doing. So that is why that alcohol-induced misbehavior, the pardoning of alcohol-induced misbehavior leads to violence. That because it is not that alcohol make him violent, but to be violent, and they use it as an alibi. They use it as an alibi. It is not me, it is alcohol. I am a good person, but only alcohol make me bad. So people think he is a good man, but he has an alcohol problem. All the blames are going to alcohol, and I protect myself, my self-image as a good person. My only problem is sometimes I use alcohol and I behave badly. So people not judge the person, but they talk about his alcohol problem, the alcohol use. But in a society where people does not pardon and sanction alcohol-induced misbehavior, we have observed that alcohol-induced violence is reduced. Because when people know that they are only pretending, they are putting up a show that they know what they are doing. So when people have that understanding, they can't behave badly. Even a child might say, hey, you go see that he goes on the road using abusive words, but if a police officer comes, he become very silent. So even a child can educate another child. So in such a changed environment, we have seen that alcohol related violence are also coming down. So this pardoning and sanctioning of alcohol misbehavior is beneficial for a user, but it is not the chemical effect of that substance, but it is socially made, and it is us, you and me, who have pardoned this alcohol-induced misbehavior. But in principle, I stopped this pardoning and sanctioning. Last 30 years, I have never pardoned or sanctioned alcohol-induced misbehavior in my society, and at the same time, I propagate this message, never pardon or sanction of alcohol behavior. So that is a tool to challenge alcohol expectancies. So once these alcohol expectancies are challenged, the alcohol becomes a dull chemical and unpleasurable, and there is no benefit in using alcohol. If we pardon or sanction alcohol-induced behavior, then it is a beneficial thing for an alcohol user. Even alcohol or drug users, right? They can practice a very free lifestyle. They evade all the family responsibilities, social responsibilities, saying, I am an addict, I am an alcoholic. No, even you are an alcoholic, right? You have that alcoholic should be asked to perform the normal duties. If he is a father, he should be asked to have a good relationship with their children. Hey, even you are drunk, ask children about their problems. Do some work and bring money home. So we should not excuse them. If we excuse them, but then they will take it as an added advantage and they will keep on continuing their drug use and that lifestyle. So, so this after using alcohol, they have the normal feeling. Now it doesn't matter what I say, what I do, right? Even they do not involve any criminal activity. Even in a drinking setting, once they imbibe their first sip, the feeling comes, now it doesn't matter what I do, what I say, because people won't judge me, but they will blame the bottle. So then that is what we call the lose control. So we actually help that person to lose his control, and thinking, our thinking is that they are unable to remember the behavioral norms. No, they know very well what they are doing. Therefore, don't pardon and sanction alcohol-induced misbehavior. At the same time, from today onwards, observe this misbehavior and give us also some examples. Please type below some examples that you come across to prove they know very well that what they are doing even after using alcohol. So please make some literature, some documents on this issue and observe this and challenge alcohol expectancies through challenging that alcohol disinhibits, the concept of alcohol disinhibits. Thank you.